Hello and welcome to another episode of Are You Pregnant with Purpose? And today's topic is financial prep. Financial prep. I thought we talked about finance in the last few ones. Anytime you're getting ready to birth a child, you need to focus on finances at least 3-4 times throughout the process, getting yourself together and prepping financially for that responsibility. Because it's very important to know what you're doing financially before you have a baby. Now, getting back to the business of having a baby. When you are prepping to have a child in business formats, you need to be thinking about your finances, especially depending on what it is that you're doing. Evaluate what your business is. Most people, they want to create a business, they want to have something, but they don't evaluate the cost of having said business. And if they do calculate having said business costs, they forget a very key factor in the whole thing. They process, budget out, unit cost, all this, but forget one key factor. Pay thyself. Now sit up there and pay everybody else in their entire business, get everything balanced out, and then look at their own bank account and realize I didn't pay myself. And that's one of the main things you will always hear business people say: pay yourself first, because if you don't, you'll forget. But if you're not to that level, you have to think about cost. Just like, as I've repeated before, the cost to have a child, which at one point in time was $18,000 to have a child all the way up through, I was about 20 some odd years ago. No. Now it's about 230 some odd dollars in order for you to have a child. Just for one child for 18 years. So you can imagine those that have multiple children, the cost expands. So you can imagine that if you're having a child or if you're having a business, your starter costs, depending on at which level you are, you're going to look at around similar amount of money. But breathe, because of the fact that we live in a society today, one, the way things have shifted, a lot of things are going online, and you have online provisionary applications that will help you keep, store, produce your products for cheaper. The catch to that is because they are keeping, storing, helping you produce, you have to pay them a cut off the top. Now, before you even decide to do that, with any business idea, you need to be tallying up your numbers. What is your number tally for whatever it is that you are doing? There was a business plan I used to use several years ago, and the way I formatted it, I would have one side of it would have a panel that would show you your units, your costs, your what your outcomes is, depending on what it is, which business you were going into. I know I was going into the fashion business, so I had to break down each unit cost for what it would look like if I had my own store, because that's the way they taught us in college how to do it. But in today's society, most brands that are starting are at least starting online to test their products. Because you have to test to see if you have an idea, you want to test to see if the market will purchase it. And you have to tally up the numbers of what that costs you. What does that expense look like? For instance, let's use clothing for the example. If I'm going to do a full collection as an online collection, let's say I want to test some pieces. I have some tester sketches that are very close to ready to wear pieces that I can go into maybe a Teespring or one of the online stores that I can get wrap dresses, I can get this, I can get that at basic look, but can convert the print and pattern to the pattern that I want it to look like. Just as a tester to see, is anybody wanting to buy this in this season? It matches the season color scheme, it matches XYZ, and the wearability of said garment, because I've got at least 3 companies that I can use even right now that will print my pieces. But understanding that maybe I'll do 3 with this company, 3 with the other company, 3 with that company, and put together on my own website a 9-piece collection to test with a certain market. All that is you're going to keep it available for a certain season and push it, create ad marketing, create ad revenue around it, and you got to tally all those expenses up, meaning where are you pushing your ads at? Are you doing Instagram? Are you doing Facebook ads? Are you doing some other ad format? Where are you pushing your ads? Who's going to see it? How are you creating polls around it? All of this. And how much does that cost you? Because you're doing this on an introductory tester level because you want to test to see if anyone will even buy it before you put the actual financial precursor of putting money into making each of these garments by going to a manufacturer, a material producer, all of these types of things just to actually have the garment made. Because in transition to having that garment made as a physical garment, it may change. You may add embellishments. You may add buttons down the middle. You may change certain things about the outfit because you're having it physically made by a pattern maker. You're seeing that people liked that silhouette in those 9 pieces. What does that look like? What's the day-to-day expense? Meaning, if you're going to go that route, what's your inventory expense? How much do you have to have for it to be kept in wherever it's being kept at? I'm going to tell you this. I remember one time I was thinking about doing, it was an MLM company that you would get the products from. I'm not going to say their names, but the one thing that turned me off is they would ship me the product, but I had to fulfill the orders. It's not the fulfillment of the orders, it's the fact that, let's say they shipped me, because there's a certain unit price in which you're supposed to fill per unit per month. So they would ship you, and say you ordered the shipment of the full unit for that month. If you don't sell that unit of what they sent you, it's sitting in your house. Now, maybe you got an office somewhere and you can afford to rent an office space out for that to be in there, but otherwise it's going to be sitting in the corner somewhere in boxes until you're able to sell out that unit. That's why I like businesses that they keep the content at their warehouse and ship it out for you, which is direct to market. But there is a cost that comes with that. So, and you have to think about this with everything that you're doing. See, you have to have the understanding. Let's say you were doing the beauty business. You're doing makeup. And for makeup, you have all of these cosmetic brands. First, you do your market research. What are your favorite brands? Maybelline, L'Oreal, think of any of the top brands. What I actually have gone and done is, I'm admit this. I went to Sephora and I looked at everything in Sephora. One, it's a location that holds a majority of your makeup brands. Most people are selling direct from there or into there, meaning they have bartered deals with the company to have their products sold within that store. And you get to see what's popular, what's selling out, what is, and so on and so forth. You get to also see what colors, especially if you're a foundation person, how many foundations are there, how many different colorways are there. I learned years ago and bought a book on color waves and took a course in, college, where they did a actual tonal test, it's a crazy little test that they do where they test by using a flower to your own skin tone what matches your tone. And they used a buttercup in order to test the colorway, and it would tell you whether it was too bright or too dark, and they'll be able to tell you what your warmth was, so on and so forth. Knowing this, the thing about it is you can still do the same thing that I said with the clothing. Go to a company that will supply your goods. You just have to find the company that has the right blend mixture for what it is that you're trying to create for your client. Me, I'm vegan, so I would probably go for a vegan line of products. Why do I say this? I had an incident once where I took I had beauty products that I had purchased, and when I put them on my face, my entire face broke out for about, it was weird. My whole face had red blotches all over it, but they didn't last. It came over my face and then was gone within 30 minutes after I took my makeup off. And I'm like, okay, I don't like that reaction. So I stopped using regular cosmetics. With that being said, when you want to do a blend for a person's skin tone, you need the right chemical combination, because what happens when you do vegan beauty, makeup, mats, so on and so forth, you come to the understanding that there's a little issue with the fact of the compounds may not be as solid, meaning the color may not appear to be as solid as your skin tone. It may seem more translucent. And then, of course, you've got your bentonite clays, and that to me looks heavy in comparison to your regular foundations, and so on and so forth. So it's finding the right mixture of what it is you want to blend to create the foundationary colors for your product line. Now, the more detail you want, the less likely you'll be able to use the brands that will create that you can do direct to market with, unless you have a supplier that allots you the ability to adjust the chemical compound, a little more of this, a little less of this per different thing that you're doing, whether you're doing the pressed powder, whether you're doing your foundation, whether you're doing whatever it is. But I had a company, which I still say I'm gonna get back with them. It's 2 companies I was looking at, and if you can use one of the direct to market companies, they got a tester of maybe anywhere from 7 to 9. I think the most that I've seen them have was 12 colorways, and I think Fenty goes all the way up to 30. But if you start with those 12, you test those 12 colorways out and you do a product for each. You see which one sells the most. People are liking this. You also look at seasonally, because seasonally people's makeup changes. In the winter, they're going to wear a darker shade than they would in the summer, because the summer they're tanning. They're easily tanned. But in the winter, the light outside is way less than it was during the summertime, meaning you got dull colors, dull colorways, and they are less tan than they were midsummer. So they're going to be wearing a different blend of makeup than they would have been if it was the middle of summertime. So everything's going to be darker. So you got to make sure that that blend matches up. And you have to test out your budget for that. Now, the reason I say that, when you are prepping for that, you need to budget out each different shade. I believe that company was, in order to do each individual, because you got to do each individual shade, and then they have 9 product blocks, meaning you can do a lip gloss, you can do a eye pencil, you can do pressed powder, you can do an actual foundation stick, you can do all of these. Now, calculating unit price, each one is $195, right? So if the product is ranging $195, you can't afford to be sitting up there, I'm gonna get one of everything, and then I'm gonna get it in every composition in which I can get it in. Yeah, you just spent a few $1,000s on something that you don't know whether it's gonna fly or not. This is why you test a collection of maybe 5. Figure out which colors are the top colors, doing so on and so forth. Just 5. And then you poll it. You find your niche people that you're going to sell that to, and you poll it. Because you don't want to waste money on something that's not going to sell. And then once you find out, ooh, this is a good seller, then you have a bigger company that you can find a blend that's better than what was blended in that direct to market company, and you put your money into that. Because you must understand the expense included in the makeup of that particular thing in the long run, because you don't want to waste money in the beginning and end up running out of juice and steam before you even make it to a point where people are loving the product. You understand what I'm saying? Rebalancing your budget. Rebalancing the budget for what it is that you are doing. You have to know what your budget balance is for your baby, for your child, for your business baby. What does that look like? What is the cost for care? If you had an actual baby, how much would it cost you to take care of that child? Feed it, take care of it, take it to the doctor, take it to the daycare, so on and so forth. In your business, clothing, makeup, whatever it is. How much does it cost to inventory that baby? How much does it cost for that baby to be kept? How much does it cost for you to use those products for, let's say, you have a trunk show for your makeup or your clothing. You have a buyer pop-up spot where people are going to be able to pick up that thing. How much does it cost for that pop-up spot? What are the costs associated with that thing? How are you taking care of it after it's been born? How are you being sloppy with it? Meaning, oh, I've already created this, so I'm going to leave it be and it's going to sell itself. Wrong. You're not going to end up with a product for very long if you just let and assume that it's going to sell itself, because it's not. You have to babysit that thing. Why? Because from season to season, that thing is going to change. Whether it's a garment of clothing, whether it's a makeup brand, whether it's an album, a track list, whatever it is, you're going to have to babysit that thing just a little bit. What is the day-to-day? How are you preparing for this thing? What are you aligning it with? Are you into fashion? Does that mean you're doing a clothing line with a beauty line, with a shoe line, with a bag line, with a t-shirt line, with all these things in order to have multiple streams in the same ornate origin of one another? What is it that you're trying to birth? Meaning, what's your baby? What's your thing? How are you operating within that niche? And how are you aligning the things in alignment with that thing? You may go through a process of creating a mood board of all of the different ideas that pop up in relation to that thing. You may not be able to do all of them, but you want to test each one out. I heard a business person say this several years ago, that every time they test a business out, they test it for 9 months. If it starts to gain a upswing over that 9-month period, they keep it in alignment with what they're doing, and then they move to the next congruent thing in relation to that said product. What do you do to plan for it? After you have decided, okay, this is my purpose, this is the thing I want to do, how are you planning? Do you have a business plan for it? Are you creating an outline as to what I want to do? Most people will be like, I want to be a fashion designer. Okay. What does the business alignment look like for that? What's your collection? What's your drawings? How's your portfolio look? What does the portfolio look like to you? What are your swatches? What are your colors? What are your... do I need to go through all of it? How are you planning for whatever it is? I could say the exact same thing for the music industry. I could say things for songs. I can go into any one of these. Because 9 times out of 10, most business formulas are the exact same formulas, just for a different industry. Same formula, different industry. What's the cost tally look like? And finally, how at the point that you know that the thing that you've created, this is working, how are you expanding your cost? Don't work non-smart, because some people, they'll say, that was a hit this season, I'm going to invest in XYZ 100K unit of that. Following season, didn't do nothing. It's like, what happened? Different season. People weren't buying that thing because, like I said, with makeup, the color changed. People didn't need that tone. They needed the opposite tone. You have to see what's conscious and what's necessary at that particular time frame. Once you know, then you can operate within that. There are people that started in the midst of this experience we're going through. We're just going to call it that. They had nothing, but they had an idea, and they planned it out well. And when they planned it out well, they not only went from one location, but ended up with 4 business locations and online markets. How are you positioning what it is that you have in order to be received for whatever it is that you're trying to do? And how are you creating the multiple streams in alignment with that thing that you are creating? Smart, not hard. Because at the end of the day, what you really want to do is you won't have that sleep money. What's sleep money? That's that money that you put these things in order and in ordinance in the right way, shape, or form. You will come to find that they fall into place subsequently and sequentially the way that they're meant to. What does this look like? This looks like, as you create a product, you add a new product to it, you add a new stream to it, you add something to it, and you create a solution out of this product that you've created. And because it is a solution to a problem, it will grow and you can scale it into something bigger. Now, you're about to enter the next phase of conversation, the danger zone. Because if you operate wrong in it, you will end up in the worst amount of debt if you do not operate correctly. Do you hear me? What are we talking about? Credit. Start by understanding your credit score. First thing I did about, when did I do this? Maybe about February, or was it right after tax season? I'm not sure, of last year. I did a scan of my credit. I looked at all of my credit scores and found out what was on my credit report, what it looked like, what I needed to do with it, and how I needed to fix it. When I came to that realization, then you figure out, what do you do now? If you're starting a business, if you're starting your life, whichever way you are dealing with your finances, you need to know what your credit looks like. If you're starting a business, 9 times out of 10, your credit needs to be in a specific way for them to even give you business credit. Now, what a lot of people do is they skim by on personal credit and then they try to transfer it later. That can be dangerous. We're going to get into that in a minute. Because you have to understand where you are and then what you were trying to do with your business. What people will do is they'll get a business credit because they'll be happy once they get business credit and they see that they got a 5K limit or whatever limit for their business. And they're like, yay, I got a limit for that. And they max that credit out. Do not do that. What you should do, I'm going to tell you this. Get a secure credit card. Banks will give you a secure credit card. If you can put the money into that secure credit card and keep it up, it will raise your credit to a point that you will be able to get credit. This is something that I did. I got secure credit for a certain amount of months and was able to continually pay month by month. There are pitfalls, and when the time comes to talk about certain pitfalls, I'll talk about them. But that's all in your own personal lining up of these things. It is hard to start a business without credit. So if you can set up your own personal credit beforehand, pay out for the 7 to 10 to 12 months that open you up to being able to open up credit accounts, then being able to open these credit accounts in alignment with what it is that you are trying to open, because it will position you to be able to better serve the business in which you're trying to create. Whether you're trying to create a for-profit business or a non-for-profit business, it's always good to have good credit. Next, as you are going, you must be careful with your business credit, just as I was saying, because unlike your personal credit, you can put yourself in jeopardy. Because there are two different sets of expenses. You have your personal expenses and you have your business expenses. And what a lot of people do is they blend the two together and they end up in a very nasty mess if they do not have this in coordinates and in alignment. Because you do not want the 3 letters coming looking for you. Who are the 3 letters? I think we all know who the 3 letters are. IRS. When the IRS comes looking for you, there's a woman that I used to follow, which was a business guru, and she went through an experience where when the IRS came after her, she thought she was doing something correct, but when she went to her bank account that particular day to withdraw money, she found her bank account had been frozen. She could not pay anything. Nothing for her business, nothing for her personal. And while she was under investigation, she had access to no money. None. She got hit with discrepancies. All of her accounts were frozen. They were able to take her house, her cars. They were able to take one of her personal properties because a lot of people get lost in the fact of they get credit and they're like, there was this thing that a lot of people were teaching people at a point in time that you hide your personal assets under a business name. Meaning, if you buy your house, buy it under your business. If you buy your car, buy it under your business. If you buy your this, you buy it under your business. But if anything happens to said business, meaning let's say there's a lien on the business or somebody sues the business for any way. This is why you have to make sure you know when you create your business, whether you're creating a C Corp, S Corp, or LLC, you want the one that protects your assets. Because if you do not protect your assets, you'll be in this situation where if by any means the IRS decides to look at your business, you could lose your house, your cars, any other properties, so on and so forth. Be aware, be cautious, protect yourself. This woman went through this process, and during it, she had no money even to buy her children Christmas gifts because of the fact that just like that, everything was closed down. They took her home. They took her business properties. She was back living with her family members and sitting on the back porch trying to figure out what just happened. Because just like that, it was gone. All of it. Nothing was under the correct protective actions needed and necessary in order for her to be able to protect her family. So she needed to have a limited liability company in order to protect all the assets in which she had. Because that way they can sue the company, but they can't touch your assets. And if you have your personal assets separated from your business assets, meaning your home, your cars, and so on and so forth, that's why it's important to have your personal cars and all that type of stuff in your personal name and have your business separated, because a lot of people will mix the two and they'll be doing personal stuff with business. They'll be doing business stuff with personals. And it don't work. Know and designate where you need what and what needs to be where. Now, a lot of people will do that just because they're trying to rob Peter to pay Paul to make sure that they don't lose everything in the process when they know that their money ain't right and all of these types of things, because they were borrowing against themselves in the first place just to keep everything afloat as things were going down. I guarantee you, people went through all kinds of foolishness at the beginning of March 2020 because of said things. They realized where all their stuff had holes in it right then. When they started to realize they didn't have enough money nor assets in order to cover and protect themselves after said things occurred. Okay? How do you protect yourself? Do you have a nest egg? What is your nest egg? How are you protecting yourself? A nest egg is, let's say you have a certain amount of money. Every time you get money in, it's just like personally myself. Every time I get money in, I sow money into churches, philanthropies, so on and so forth. That's my 10% or my 20%. But let's say you have a 10 or 20% that you put away, meaning you put it in a secured account that nobody can access, not even yourself, that prevents you from being able to spend this money. How are you breaking this up? What are you breaking it up for? Some people have secured accounts that they put names on. Maybe you have children and they're at certain ages. You want to have a private school account. Maybe you have college. You have children that are infants and you want to put away for their college fund, and or some people don't want to send their kids to college, or they want to give their kids the opportunity to operate in business, so they'll put together a fund that when their kids get to a certain age, that it will be released into their hands, that they will be able to, let's say, get some type of education in whether they're doing online schooling, they're investing in some type of program or something that they will get the it's not a charter school, but it's almost like a quick certification for whatever it is, whatever field, whether you're going into the health field, you're going into this field, you're going into, I remember when Sierra and her husband went through the process. She went into, what was it? Business. It was business at Howard University's program, which was an accelerated program that allowed her the ability over a short period of time to get a degree in what she needed for business for her own company. But it was no period. I think it was between 6 weeks and 3 months. It wasn't even a full year of schooling, if that much. Maybe you have trusts that you are putting together, because some people put trusts together for each of their individual children so that they can protect their kids at a later date. And trusts, some people have trusts that are time locked. That meaning there's a large amount of money in that trust, but a certain amount is released at 30, 35, 40, 45 because of how much is in the account. And the children will gain access to it that way. Some people have retirement 401ks or emergency funds, including you have the Roth IRA, you have all of these things. And there's a specific one for self-employed people. I forget the name of it. I'll have to look it up. But it's pretty much the 401k for a self-employed person. And that might be the Roth IRA. I'm not sure. But I'll let you know by the next video. But you want to have these things set. Meaning you have your CDs, your bonds, all of these things. Maybe you have stock portfolios, whatever these things. Stocks, they can be iffy depending on what kind of stocks they were. Because things can go up and things can tank. And it's an up and down and up and down and up and down. And the only time that you really see movement or use of this money is when you pull the money out. And you got to be careful when you do that, because look at the Enron scandal. People had conscious knowledge of certain information. They pulled their money out because they knew that the money was going to tank. And because they knew, they all ended up going to jail. Because they saved their money while everybody else lost theirs. But you always got to be careful. Stock market, it really is an up and down game. And if you're not conscious, you will run into issues. So you have to know what you want to do. You want to have secured accounts where you can secure money. Maybe you can change it, because sometimes you can do a secured account for 6 months. Maybe after that 6 months, you can either change that account for 6 months to a higher amount of investment or what have you. Because I think their limits go up to $5,000. I think the one that I had went up to $3,000. The fact that you have to go through a process of changing your mindset about money anyway. Start reading books about this, understanding what it is. Many years ago, I think I read the book, The Automated Millionaire. You want that set it and forget it money. Basically, how are you setting up your nest eggs? How are you setting up your financial plans that money is constantly being put away for you in the case of an emergency? How are you setting things up that you have automatic deposits? You have a specific account that has the largest amount of money that you desire for it to have, and this account your bills come out of. You set up your 401k money to come out of that annual annuity. You have people, maybe you have your tithes that come out automatically out of this account. You have your charitable donations, they come out of an account. You have your credit card payment pay automatically out of this account. You have your payroll for your business and the people that you're paying on come out of that account. And here we come to my favorite part. Zero bill theory. Zero bill theory? What do you mean zero bill theory? Everybody had bills. Many years ago, when I first started using money, my mother is the one that taught me how to do checkbooks, balance checkbooks, so on and so forth. And what I did is I've done work study, I've done all types of intermediate jobs like that. And what I would do when I had the money, if I didn't have anything that was imperative for me to purchase, I would rather my bills be paid than for them not to be paid. I, to this day, still do this whenever I have money. I pay my bills out anywhere from 5 to 6 months. If the money's there, I'm paying that bill. I did that with my cell phone. I've done that with other expenses, credit card expenses, anywhere that I was able to put the money into that account, and it will be pulled out of the queue whenever that bill was due. It's the best way. That way you don't have late payments because the money's already in their system as being there. And if you have a receipt on the back end showing I already paid that because the money's already in there, the only time that they would need to be able to bill you back is when that 6-month period ends. And what you can do is, if you don't want that period to end, you pay the bill out 3, 4, 5 months ahead, 6 months ahead, and you keep paying it after that month by month. Then, in a case of an emergency month, you've got 6 months back end that you have a month, oh man, I can't pay it this month. You got 6 months in the queue already. That month will automatically be taken out of the money that's sitting there. Think about it. That's how I pay my bills whenever I have money. Because the best phone call I ever got went just like this. Hello, Miss Cameron. Your bill payment for this month is 0, 0, 0. Amen. That's the type of bill you want. Anybody else want that kind of bill? I know I do. I love that bill. I know. Can we agree too much for words? Amen. Okay. Isn't it too much for words? Now, let's move on to insurance. When you have insurance, you must deal with insurance, whether it be for yourself, your person, your business, so on and so forth. When you have a baby or business, you're looking at having a short insurance. What's your insurance? Are you adding that child to your insurance? Meaning, are you adding that business to your insurance? Do you have a specific insurance? And does your insurance company carry business insurance for your business baby? What are the different types of insurance? If you have a corporation, a lot of corporations have a medical package for the people. It's called in their benefits package for their company. Are you creating a medical benefits package that deals with the medical, the dental, the life insurance, and or there are some that have a in their benefit package schooling, meaning they will pay for you to receive a certain schooling type for a period of time, meaning it's a 6-month program, a 3-month program. It's equivalent of getting a college grant, but from your corporation that will pay out you to get schooling to better improve your skill set for the job that you're on. Are you insuring, if you have employees, and I will tell you this, in today's climate, you may not have employees in the beginning. You may have people that work under a commissionary payment, meaning they come in and out as you pay them. But you have to be very careful because you have to still take an account and accreditivity to these people that are employed under you for that period of time. Because if you do not list them on your tax paperwork, you could actually get in trouble for that. I knew somebody that actually got in trouble that they forgot that they had this person on their commission, under commission for this short-term job, and forgot to put it in their taxes. And they realized when the IRS came at them and said you owe them such and such amount of money because you forgot that person. And if you don't pay it, jail time. Who out here looking for jail time? I'm not looking for no jail time. Moving on. So you have to understand that your insurance, especially if you're covering other people, you have to cover yourself. You got to cover your employees. You got to cover whatever plans that you have, and you're covering everything and everyone that works for you. And in today's market, you must pay attention to what they're doing economically, especially now with certain things going on for the certain amount of employers and employment that you're doing. What does that look like? Are you a corporation? Do you have less than 499 employees? Are you an LLC that has less than 499 employees? Are you a private label or are you a public company? That can also have an effect, especially with certain economical changes that they're making. We're just going to say that. Read between the lines. That's why a lot of people, if you're a startup, I suggest if you can commission workers and they work for a certain period of time on short staffedness, do that. If you can work with a direct to market company, meaning you aren't staffing the people but they are staffing the people, do that. We're in a very tumultuous time right now, so play close to the vest. Be very careful of how you do things. You can get around it, but work with it. Work with it. Because just as I said, you got your employee, you got your contractual workers. Understand that. Understand what the key positions are and make sure that you have an attorney that is helping you. Either you work with your LegalZoom or you work with an attorney. Some people have patent attorneys. Some people have specific strategic attorneys. If you do not know what you are doing, please find you an attorney, because that can save you because of the little linguistic technical things that you may not be fully understood of, and these attorneys may understand certain changes that may have transpired over periods of time. The same laws and things that may have went 3, 4, 5 years ago are not the same now, because things have changed in the way the market scope looks right now. Now let's get to the next phase of this. Freezing your eggs. We spoke about, I touched on this in relation to secured credit. Freezing your accounts. Because when you have an account that you can't have access to, it prevents you from spending. When you think about a pregnant woman, some women don't want to have children right away. So what they'll do is they'll go to a fertility specialist and they'll have their eggs frozen so that you can have your children later. If you have a problem with complication conceiving, if someone has a life-threatening illness and they may not be able to conceive, they still have their eggs.
Good morning, Wyman House residents. I just wanted to give you an update on the elevator situation. The elevators are not fixed at the moment, but we are in the process of having them serviced.
Pardon.
I will give you an update as things progress. Thank you so much, and have a great day.
Yes, that happens in this apartment complex every once in a while. I was going to cut that off, but I said, you know what? I'm almost done with this video. You're just going to have to live with that being in there. Anyway, where was I? So, as you're preparing to conceive and you're pregnant with purpose, you want to make sure that you're conceiving without, let's say you have a lot of eggs that you're conceiving. Because when a woman freezes their eggs, they are taking a lot of eggs at one time and freezing them for a specific time frame. So you make the effort to make the certain changes in which things will happen in accordance. Some people will have 50 different plans and eggs waiting. What does this look like for a business? Let me tell you. There's a scripture that speaks of a woman. She and her husband passed away. She had 2 sons. She goes to the prophet in town and says, my husband's passed away. He used to work for you. How can I prevent from losing my 2 sons? The man tells her, what do you have in your house? She said, all I have is but a bit of oil. He says, go borrow vessels, not a few, from everybody in town, and you use those vessels and pour that oil until you run out. This is what freezing your eggs looks like. You sit down and you write down every single thing that you have a creative ability in your body to do. Whatever that thing is, you write it all down. Whatever you're passionate about, whatever you love to do, whatever you'd like to have a project in, all of these types of things. I can literally show you right now. Let's see if I have it. You see this? all of those documents. There are even more than that below that point. But you see in that, it's a ton of things that I have the ability to look, create, work on, develop, so on and so forth. And because of that, I have multiple, some people call it multiple irons in the fire, multiple plans in the pot, multiple what have you. There's a scripture in Habakkuk that goes, Habakkuk 2:2, write the vision, make it plain on tablets, for at a point in time it shall speak. For runners to go get at the appointed time. What you do is, if you have an idea, a business idea, whatever it is, you write that business idea. Do you have the idea for a conglomerate? How many different levels do you have? What are you skilled in? What can you go into business with? You write all those things down. What does that look like for you? How would that business transpire? How many different levels does that business have? What do you want to do philanthropy-wise with that business? All of those different areas. You are creating a smorgasbord of eggs that can be frozen. Because once you create it and you plan each thing out, what you just saw was a series of plans on a screen that I have had for years. It's all about the timing of when each thing needs to be produced. Okay? So, at an appointed time, each thing will need to be rolled out. Certain seasons, certain times, so on and so forth. That's what freezing your eggs looks like. You know what you want to do, but you understand that not everything will come in the same season. And because you know that not everything will come in the same season, you have to have other options. But understand this, just like a woman that has gone through certain scenarios with eggs, in the case that they had a miscarriage, in the case that they had an abortion, in the case that they had an issue in their body, you have your babies in the freezer. But when a woman goes through fertility treatments, they sometimes get pregnant with more than one baby at one time because of the fact that when they put the frozen eggs in, they never put one in just in case the one fails. They put 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. That's how you end up with some of these women, and they end up carrying 5 babies at one time. They're like, oh my God, you had, it's like all the eggs took. All the eggs were viable eggs, and every egg took. And they ended up with 5, 6 kids. Septuplets, octuplets, quads, all in. And sometimes this happens in business too. How does this work? This is when you have, like I just said, a series of streams of income, beauty, fashion, this, food, this, the other thing. You are a production assistant, but you have things that fall into each category in relation to production. Maybe you deal with catering, you deal with talent, you deal with the clothing and the styling, you deal with this, you deal with that, you deal with the beauty, you deal with the makeup, you deal with all of this. All of these things, there are multiple streams of income, and sometimes all of them are birthed at one time. For when God blesses you, He blesses you in the overflow. So, with that being said, that was my spiel for today. We had that wonderful alarm disruption. Pardon me. But that happens in this apartment complex. I have no control over it. Am I going to re-record this for this? Not really. But I love you for it. But I hope this blessed you. I hope this was able to give you some answers that you did not have. I'm going to save this broadcast. Anybody came in late, you can go back to the beginning and watch it again and see what parts you missed. And understand that this is part of a series of videos. This is part 6. It's about 17 parts that I know of to this thing. It's between 17 and 18 parts. So, we'll see. Keep up, keep track, understand if you like this content, subscribe to my Instagram page so whenever I upload a new one, you'll be aware and alert to it. I'm so glad that you decided to stay in for the content. Too much for words. Thank you for joining. Until next time, this is Taj McCameron. Much love, faith, peace, and blessings to you. Bye-bye.